What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? And in today's video, we are going to be doing a tier list where I grade every NBA team's free agency so far. And while there's still some big name free agents out there, mainly in the restricted free agency atmosphere with DeAndre Ayton and Colin Sexton, not really going to talk too much about Miles Bridges in this video, that could alter some of these teams' free agency, up a grade, down a grade. So I'll take that into consideration if I think they will end there. I do think Sexton will probably end up back as a Cav, but DeAndre Ayton, I have no idea where he's going to end up. So I'm going to be constantly going back and forth between the free agency tracker with the NBA. Unfortunately, it doesn't really say how much money they got here, but we'll go into it a little bit and I'll kind of figure out what I want to grade each team here on who they added to the roster, who they lost. We'll have 5 tiers: S, A, B, C, and D. Don't normally do this. I usually kind of fill out a tier with its name and its own specific reasoning, but we're gonna go with the letters today. So yeah, we're pretty much just gonna go with this order of how the tier list was made. So first off, or to start off, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. They lost a couple guys in free agency, but they brought a lot of people back. Serge Ibaka, he's kind of at the end of his career. Same with Wesley Matthews, but he's not a bad wing. If he's kind of coming off the bench, he was getting significant minutes for them, but that could have been due to the Chris Middleton injury. I like Javon Carter for them. That's why he got a 2-year deal. Joe Ingles, I actually love that signing with their mid-level exception for around like $6 million a year. I'm hoping he doesn't look too bad after this serious leg injury, but I think he could be a good role player for them. And getting Bobby Portis back on a 4-year deal, I thought was great. I'm not going to give it I think an A or an S tier. It's going to be a B, but there is a chance it moves up. Like, I need to see how the field plays out. And then if I'm like, wow, they actually had a better offseason than everybody in the B tier, boom, they go up. Or I think they had a worse offseason than everybody in the B tier, maybe they go down. So next up, we have the Brooklyn Nets. So this is a big TBD. Now, I will be doing a grading offseason video once the offseason is done. So mainly their free agency signings are out of the way. Katie and Kyrie, they're not free agency signings that they get traded. So they brought back Claxton on a 2-year deal. Patty Mills returned on a 2-year deal after he opted out. They brought in Edmund Sumner. They brought in TJ Warren. They brought back Kessler Edwards. I didn't mind this offseason for them. They let Andre Drummond walk, pretty much off the top of my head, and Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown will hurt a little bit, but I like to pick up a lot of TJ Warren. I'm hoping he's fully healthy, but this man has not played a lot since the bubble. So, yeah, we'll see if he's going to be rusty. It's going to be a rehab year. They brought back some of their young guys like Claxton and Edwards. I thought Patty Mills was gone, so that was a nice signing as well. I'm going to give it a B tier. I don't think they lost anybody notable. Like, Bruce Brown is going to hurt, but I'm a fan of just bringing back Edwards, Claxton, and bringing in TJ Warren. I'm excited for that, and I thought they were going to lose Patty Mills as well. Next up, we have the New York Knicks. Okay, this is an interesting one also, because the Knicks were pretty active. They re-signed Mitchell Robinson to a 4-year deal. They had one of the biggest free agency signings with the player switching teams, and Jalen Brunson, 4-year deal. You know me, wasn't a huge fan of the idea of it. I am talking myself into it. I'm excited. He's probably going to average 16 and 4 for the Knicks. But hey, 4 years, 104. He's like the 15th highest paid point guard in the league. It's just how the times we're in. Where $24 million isn't that much. Jericho Sims, like that, back on a 3-year deal. And one of the most underrated signings, I think, of the offseason was Isaiah Hartenstein. He could provide, or he could show that he could be a 3-and-D center. He could be starting over Mitchell Robinson at some points. And I'm glad Taj Gibson's gone. He's in Washington. Because I think the Knicks had a good free agency period. I mean, you got one of the best free agents. Would you pay for him on your team? I don't know. Like, I think if Dallas, like, signed him to that same deal, people were like, good job, Dallas. I'm actually going to give the Knicks an A free agency. Now, would I give the Knicks an A offseason as a whole? No. They'd probably get, like, a B because they had to attach a first-round pick to salary dump Kemba Walker. They really just got no assets in return, and they had to give up 2nd-round picks to get off the Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks contract. So basically, they're saying, yeah, last year wasn't great. They're still trying to constantly move Evan Fournier. Who knows if Derrick Rose is going to get moved? Yeah, I don't think the Knicks offseason is an A, but I think they did well in free agency. They lost Taj Gibson. They didn't really lose anybody else too important. Toronto is next up. Now, Toronto hasn't been insanely active. They brought back Thad Young. Wasn't a huge trade if that one had happened. Otto Porter, I think, yeah, he'll get some good run for them. And they got Chris Boucher returning on a 3-year deal. Did they lose anybody notable? I wasn't sure if they did. But I like bringing in Otto Porter. I think he'll be a good wing for them. I don't think it's anything crazy, though. It's probably a beat. They didn't lose anybody too notable, and something might pop up. And they're like, oh, yeah, they lost that player. So we'll get into that. The Jazz. Well, the Jazz have added nobody through their team free agency. This is just for free agency. I'll do a full offseason grading down the line because they're going to get a good grade for their offseason because I love the Gobert trade. But they were just so capped hit. They really couldn't do anything. I mean, they didn't really lose anybody too notable, but they didn't sign anybody. It might be a D. It's probably a D for agency. You didn't improve your roster. This is where you do it. Maybe they use the tax or some mid-level exception, somebody down the line. But you don't add anybody, you're not going to get a good grade. They lost some players, but hey, this is for free agency. They're going to get a B or higher in the offseason grade for me because I loved their return for Rudy Gobert. Absolutely loved it. It was a haul. Timberwolves.
Sorry, could you say?
Nope, Sarah, we're not doing that. But yeah, like the Timberwolves, they got a good player, but man, the Jazz got an absolute haul for Rudy Gobert. Next up, we have the Houston Rockets. Has Dennis Schroeder signed anywhere? I don't know. That just popped in my head. I don't think so. But where are the Houston Rockets? I can't find them. Okay, no, they would be right here. So they brought back Jae'Sean Tate on a 3-year deal. Now, I know they lost some guys like John Wall. They had to buy out. Say what you want about that trade. I mean, they got off Russell Westbrook. They had a first-round pick in that from the Wizards, but then they, I think, sent that to OKC in a deal. Yeah, I wouldn't say they had a great free agency class or free agency. Shout out to them for letting Jae'Sean Tate decline in that option, so we actually got paid a little bit more. It's a C grade for me, but don't mind their offseason because I liked who they drafted a lot. I love Ty Washington, I love Tari Easton, and I love Jabari Smith for them. The next team we have are the New Orleans Pelicans. They signed Zion to a major extension. I would say it's a B now because they're a team that really didn't need to do too much in free agency because they have a very deep roster. And that Zion contract is a little risky. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad they paid their star player or maybe their franchise guy. It is a little risky though. So you know what? I'm going to actually drop them into the C tier for that. I know there's some injury incentives in there. Not really incentives, but injury kind of clauses in there in case something happens. Next up, we have the LA Lakers, who had to be somewhat active in free agency, and they've added Juan Toscano-Anderson, Troy Brown, Thomas Bryant, Damian Jones, and Lonnie Walker. I was a fan of the Lonnie Walker, Thomas Bryant, and Juan Toscano-Anderson. I think they did well throughout free agency of what they could. I mean, like, yes, they weren't going to be able to spend $30 million, $10 million here, $10 million there, $10 million there, but hey, you're getting Lonnie Walker for like a minimum deal, or Thomas Bryant for the minimum, Lonnie Walker for your exception. I thought they did well in free agency. Did I think they did well overall in the offseason? No, I don't think they improved the team too much throughout the whole offseason, like Max and Christie throughout the draft. We'll see. Like, if they move Russ for Kyrie and only have to give up maybe a first that has some protection on it and turns into seconds, they'll have a good offseason grade for me. But right now, they're going to get an A free agency. If the season ended, like, they would probably drop down to like a B or a C for just the offseason. What do we got next? Chicago. Okay, Chicago made some notable signings, I know. Can we get out of that? Okay, so they brought back Zach LaVine on that massive 5-year deal. They brought in Goran Dragic. They brought back Derrick Jones Jr. And they brought in Andre Drummond. I know you need some rim protecting help, and Andre Drummond is not going to be that guy. Goran Dragic, did you need another point guard with Kobe White, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso there? Not gonna lie, I'm not a huge fan of this Bulls free agency class. I really liked Dalen Terry for them in the draft, but they didn't make any trades. Yes, they're going to be fully healthy next year, knock on wood, but they didn't do anything to improve, I feel like, their front court defense. We'll see if Patrick Williams takes a step next year, but I didn't think Goran Dragic was a necessity. I think Andre Drummond was the wrong center to sign. I'm glad they brought back Zach LaVine. You do that. I don't think Derrick Jones Jr. is going to really light the world on fire. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that Chicago free agency, if we're being honest. Minnesota is next. Now, Minnesota obviously made a huge trade with the Utah Jazz. We'll get into that. But I liked them bringing in Brent Forbes. I like them re-signing Prince and bringing in Kyle Anderson. And then obviously the Karl Anthony Towns signing, or the re-signing. I thought it was an A free agency. The trade is probably a B to a C for me. But I like that free agency, those deals for me. For them. So next up we have Portland. I really like what Portland did. Brought back Anthony Simons, brought back Yusuf Nurkic, and just really one of my favorite signings of the offseason is Gary Payton to the Blazers because they desperately need these type of defensive players. I loved it. Portland has had a good offseason. I love Shaedon Sharpe. I thought they got Jeremy Grant for good value. Like I said, I love Gary Payton. It's an S tier free agency for me. I think it's just the Gary Payton signing. I really liked it a lot. Anthony Simons, we'll see if the 4-year 100 is end up as an overpay. But it's 4 years. I think they'll be fine. I think maybe the Nurkic will be not a great contract by the end of 2 years, but I thought just getting Gary Payton, re-signing Simons, it's a good offseason for me. I'm just probably a Gary Payton homer. Next up, we have the Denver Nuggets, who brought in Bruce Brown. Okay, so you do the Jokic Supermax. They would get an S tier for me. The only reason you're not getting an S tier, and we'll get into the whole offseason trade with that Monty Morris trade, because I wasn't a huge fan of it. Just giving up Monty Morris, because I would have tried to do like a Will Barton for KCP swap, but I guess it helps your tax implications, because Bruce Brown, one of the best value signings of the offseason, by far. But why is DeAndre Jordan still playing? He's not very good. He's not. Now, I just found out his whole why he tweets every day. Incredible respect for DeAndre Jordan, but he's just not very good anymore. I'd rather have DeMarcus Cousins. You would be an S tier, but you're an A for me. I don't know. Portland's going to be an S by the end of this. So, OKC. Let's see who OKC got. They got Lou Dort back on that 5-year deal. They didn't do anything crazy. I think they lost some vets. They'll probably get a C. Yeah, I mean, they're still building the team through the draft, but say that's what you're going to do. That's fine. You just got to accept that's your free agency grade, not your draft grade. You always get a good draft grade from me. Memphis. So Memphis ended up, let's see. They brought back Tyus Jones, which I did not think they were going to do. They signed John Morant, and they brought back John Conchar, who I liked a lot, on a 3-year extension. They did lose Kyle Anderson, which I am fine with. I think it's a pretty good free agency period for the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the Dallas Mavericks. Probably a D. You lost Jalen Brunson. JaVale McGee, sure, on the 3-year deal. Theo Pinson's a good locker room guy. But just some other implications cause you to not be able to do anything in free agency and add around Luka Doncic. Is Christian Wood going to be the star next to Luka? We'll see. But because you're paying Davis Bertans, Spencer Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway Jr., Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell, who's the other guy? Not Dorian Finney-Smith, but just like, I guess he kind of goes in there. You're paying so many players a lot of money outside of Luka Doncic. I don't think it was great. You know what? I feel like D's a little harsh. I'll make it a C. I will make it a C. San Antonio. They usually do a questionable thing in the offseason, in my opinion. So they brought in Gorgie Jang. Nothing special for a young team. Probably a D. Next up, we have the Phoenix Suns. We'll see if they have a Kevin Durant trade too. But they brought back Devin Booker on a lot of money. They brought in Damian Lee, Josh Okogie, Bismack Biyombo. It was a solid, respectable offseason for what they can do with their cap space. It is a B. You can see them trying, but I think they're still waiting to see if there's a KD trade on the line. LA Clippers, man, this is a great offseason. Re-signed Zubac, brought in John Wall, brought back Amir Coffey, and Nicholas Batum. That is an S offseason, free agency period for me. Love that so much. They're my finals pick probably for next year. Warriors, now you did lose Gary Payton, which hurts a lot, and that's why you're not going to be in the S tier, but I love DiVincenzo for 2 years, $9 million. Did not think they were going to bring back Kevon Looney, so I'm happy with that. Golden State, you know what? You're getting an S tier. You lost Gary Payton. You're not going to be able to sign everybody. I think DiVincenzo will be a good replacement. Detroit, I wasn't a huge fan of the Marvin Bagley contract. Kevin Knox isn't the greatest. It's probably a C free agency period for me. It is. Sacramento Kings, they just, I think, brought in, what's his name? Not Kevin Huerter. Malik Monk. Sure, I like the Kevin Huerter trade. They're gonna, and I like Keegan Murray. They're gonna get a good offseason grade for me, but for free agency, I'll give it a B. I like the Malik Monk signing. Next up, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. They brought back Darius Garland, or they re-signed Darius Garland. Brought back Ricky Rubio on a 3-year deal. I like it. Robin Lopez, well, not so, just some veterans to fill some roster spots, but it's a B. Boston. They brought back Luke Cornett on a 2-year deal. Nothing crazy. You can get a C from me. Philadelphia. They had a good offseason. I mean, James Harden re-signed on like a $15 million pay cut. You brought in Daniel House, PJ Tucker. Kind of win-now pieces. I think they did the best they could with their cap implications as well, or their restraints, so they're getting an S. Charlotte, Charlotte, when I offseason grade, is probably going to get my worst grade of the offseason. They're going to get a D for me as well. They really didn't do anything in free agency. Now, one thing wasn't their fault with Miles Bridges. But yeah, they brought back Cody Martin, who I don't love, but is a solid player. They're going to get a D. They might get my worst I think they've had the worst offseason so far. I think so. Washington. Now, Washington was a little bit active, especially on the trade market. Now, I think Washington's probably going to get a D for me as well, because I just am not a fan of the Bradley Beal Supermax. And you have to do it. You have to do it. You should have traded Bradley Beal. But hey, can't fault loyalty. You know what? I'll give respect to that. They're getting a C. But I don't really think, like, Devon Wright's fine. Anthony Gill, fine. Actually, I did like the Monte Morris trade for them. Yeah, they're going to get a better grade in the offseason grades. Orlando, they brought back Gary Harris. Not really sure why bring back him and Mo Bamba. 2 years, 26 mil for Harris, which I thought was a little bit of an overpay. I know he's a good defender. Mo Bamba, 2-year deal. They're probably going to get a C for me. Yeah, you know what? Am I being too harsh on any of these teams? Maybe I'm being too harsh on Chicago. At least they were active. Yeah, sure. No, I'm going to stand by my Chicago take. I am. Maybe I feel like I can't have too many teams in C. Miami. Now, Miami lost PJ Tucker, but I like the Caleb Martin, Victor Oladipo deal, Dwayne Dedmon. I thought they were solid. They're getting a B. Atlanta, we know they traded for DeJounte Murray, but that was not in free agency. They can get a C for me. And Indiana, team with cap space, really just brought back Jalen Smith. They're going to get a C for me, too. Now, there's way too many C teams in here. Who would I bump up? Do I bump up Washington? Or I just almost put him in D? Houston, you know what? I'll give respect for the Jayshawn Tate. Who did the Pelicans get again? Just the Zion. I don't really want to... Okay, I mean, like, free agency was kind of quiet this year just because there wasn't that many free agents, like, big names out there. So, you know what? I will give Houston and OKC respect for making sure Lou Dort and Jayshawn Tate got paid. But yeah, that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with down below. Drop a like if you did. And I love you guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.